um, yeah, let's all find ourselves in a suitable, comfortable place so we can go on our little trance journey and connect to our guides and our higher selves and all the good things that we want to connect to. Just grounding ourselves in our bodies. Perhaps taking some deep breaths. I find myself doing that. If you're like me, you can get. I know a bunch of us. It's not just me. Are getting very, very excited. So we can just deep breaths. Maybe just some like yawning, a little bit of relaxing into the body. And as we're relaxing and sinking more deeply into the body, we're also entering our heart space, which is where we want to be relating to and from. It's how we'll get the most benefit from this experience is through the portal of our heart. So we're letting ourselves ground in our body and ground in our heart space. Heart on a physical level, but also energetically, spiritually. And some of you may resonate with this. On a fourth dimensional level, some of us, our heart space can look very different. It's not necessarily the same as the physical heart. It can be much more expanded. Sometimes it's at the center of the chest or on the opposite side, on the right side of the chest. Sometimes you can feel you have two hearts when you're in fourth dimensional space. So just naming that, like entering heart space, which is not just the physical heart, it's the entire spiritual, emotional space there. Grounding a little more deeply. And this is a really ideal moment to tune in. Just to mention and appreciate, it's the global CE5 meditation. So many groups like us around the world are currently tuning in to their Star Nation family, Star Nations with love. And we can tap into that field a little bit, have some healthy exchange of our energy with the other groups all around the world. And of course, on a meta level, we're doing something all together, all around the planet, tapping into the earth grids, as well as the group consciousness of the CE5 venture, all to enhance one another's contact experiences. And to be very clear, we're welcoming only those experiences which serve the highest good of all beings and serve our individual development. We're not welcoming anything which is going to take us off our path, quote unquote. We're only interacting with the beings of the most possible integrity and creating those experiences of the highest vibration and the highest integrity possible. And we ground further into our bodies, into our heart spaces, into the earth. Body being part of the earth, of course. I would also like to acknowledge those versions of the Zeta and the Essassani who are inside the earth, connecting to the earth energy more directly, physically, underground, in many different ways. So we can ground ourselves in the earth and also remember that we're not necessarily going out into space, although that'll be part of it. It's also about connecting to another aspect of the Earth. And the Zeta are very bound up with Earth. There's a very, very close relationship. So finding our root, finding our ground, being in our hearts, intending that anything we experience is for the good of ourselves, the good of other beings. And let's also create some shields from the false Zeta beings, the false Zeta consciousness, because we don't want to be interrupted. So if this resonates with you, you can join me in creating some shields from the false Zeta consciousness. And calling on our personal spiritual team to assist us in filtering out anything which does not serve our highest purposes. For most of us, that means filtering out the cyborg versions of the Zeta, the military grays, so that we can focus more on the root Zeta consciousness. I also call in divine protection for the group as a whole. And I humbly ask that if you do hold fear about going into some aspects of this experience, that you let that fear move into love and move into trust. I know it's a big leap of faith, but we're all supporting each other in creating the most positive experiences possible. So if you can, and if it feels right, just let your fear move into trust and move into love. We're in safe and protected space. And also we're protected from any aspects of the true Zeta that we don't want to relate to at this time. So everything that we're doing is fully consensual by free will. You don't have to go into any of this material that you don't want to go into. Also, to be very clear about that, you don't have to go all the way into the Zeta mind. You can just be when and where you are, interact with this to the extent that you feel comfortable, and you don't have to push yourself to go further than that. Just set your boundaries in a place that lets you move into love and into trust and away from fear. So there's absolutely no need to pretend that you're not afraid or something like that. Just set your boundaries where you want to set them. And we continue to move into the body, into the heart space, into earth consciousness, with the support of all the other CE5 groups. And at this point, I'm going to invoke an aspect of the Zeta consciousness that I just call the Zeta Mother. there's a very nurturing feminine collective consciousness presence, which is part of the Zeta, and it's aligned with many different aspects of the goddess as we experience it on Earth. This is just an aspect of the Zeta that I particularly resonate with, and it's a really nice way to initiate contact. You don't have to know what any of this means in order to do it or engage with it, so don't worry too much about what the logical meaning of all this is at this moment. Just relating through the Zeta Mother, or the feminine aspect of the Zeta collective consciousness. And if you like, you can also bring in the masculine aspect of the Zeta Oversoul. You could call it the Zeta Father. In union with the Mother. I think many of us in this group have had some unpleasant abduction experiences. So I just want to say that this is new. This is separate. No harm will come to you, and you don't have to carry your unpleasant experiences into this experience. It can be separate. And it can help you have more perspective also on the unpleasantness. But this is not, it doesn't need to trigger you. If you find aspects of yourself that are going into fear or going into unpleasant abduction experiences, just see if you can hold them in love. Just send part of yourself, part of your consciousness to comfort those parts of you, usually younger parts who are going into fear. And remembering that there was a lot that could not be communicated to you at that time in the past. A lot that was beyond your understanding that made it more scary. But in the present, and with the full assistance of the group and your personal spiritual team and the shared energies of the groups around the world, you're empowered to comfort those parts of yourself. And to move into a new understanding of what it is to relate to the Zeta beings, the Zeta Oversoul. Connecting some of the dots. So we're grounded in our heart space, communicating from heart space on the earth, and with the assistance of the mother and father aspects, the parent aspects of the Zeta group. Comforting those parts of ourselves that may need comfort. And recalling that all of our interactions happen by choice on a fundamental level. So grounded in heart space and with a lot of support, and also with the support of the mother and father of the Zeta consciousness, I invite us to move into more individual experiences. This is going to be different for each one of us. Don't be surprised if your consciousness starts to shear off into having different perspectives at once by locating, being at more than one place in time, having different selves that you're tuning into. This is all very normal for this moment. So just kind of let yourself be in 2 or 3 places at once. If that's what's happening. Again, you don't have to understand it with your logical mind. Maybe later you will. I invite each of us to come from the collective level with the support of the collective level and into more personal experiences. For some of you, this is going to be going into memory. For others, you're going to find yourself in different locations in space, maybe on a ship or below the earth, or simply in a different location. For other people, again, it could be memory. It could also be something in the future. Just be really patient, compassionate, accepting. Whatever you're meant to experience, you will experience. And it doesn't have to make sense. Just moving into the more personal places. Perhaps you find individual beings that you feel like relating to, beings from your past or from different aspects of your present or future. And this is a chance to have the experience without fear and with abundant love and acceptance. For some of us, there's going to be a lot of emotion moving. Be patient. and just welcome the movement. I'm going to be a little bit more quiet for a while as we go into our more personal experiences. But I'm still with you. If you need any kind of assistance, you can also reach out to me on an internal level or a telepathic level. Yeah, you're in safe and protected space, and I'm still here if you need me. Um, I also want to mention if you feel like there's interference on any level, you can just come back to our core intention to connect to the root Zeta consciousness for the highest good of all. And that should help it be a little more clear. Also, again, if anything feels like it's overwhelming or unwanted, you can just scale it back. You're welcome to have as many boundaries as you want. You can also set an intention, if this is helpful, to separate yourself from the false Zeta consciousness, because I'm still sensing some confusion for some of us around that. So just ask your guides, your spiritual team, to help you define what's helpful and not helpful for you, and what's authentic and not authentic. You can also invoke the assistance of the tall grays. Again, you don't have to know what that means with your mind. You can just do it with your heart. Some of the grays are more evolved than the others, and they can help differentiate what's in the highest good and what isn't. They usually appear as being taller than the others, and they have a higher vibration. If you're still in multiple experiences at the same time, you can gradually, easefully start to make your way back to a more singular experience. If there's more communication that you'd like to happen in this moment, you can let it happen. And you can also trust that other aspects of yourself are going to continue the communication. The conversation keeps going, even if you withdraw your conscious attention from it. There are other levels where the contact continues. I welcome us to release our direct focus on those encounters and release our direct focus on our multiple selves. Start to come back to our singular selves. And I'm welcoming in, well, we're welcoming in some frequencies that are going to be helpful to balance and clear some of the relationships and some of the karma that's present here, and help us feel more clear and more refreshed rather than overwhelmed or confused as we come back to our singular perception, our individual human experience. So if this feels real and useful, you can let these frequencies of divine assistance help you. And you may feel unfairly cut off from some of the interesting awareness experiences. But just remember that they continue on other levels. And that we move at the pace of the group. So if you're still very much in an individual experience, you can start to release that, come back to awareness of the others in the group, and also take advantage of these divine frequencies that are assisting us in having a more clear and balanced experience, coming smoothly back into our individual selves and being freed of some of the karma and confusion that can accompany these experiences. Slowly drifting back to being a human being. Seems kind of absurd from where we've been, but there it is. And just being a guide for yourself, channeling your own consciousness back comfortably into your physicality. Releasing past and future versions, other dimensional versions. You still have your inner child and your inner adult, and hopefully with more perspective and more comfort. And yeah, I'll officially I'll officially welcome us back to our physical bodies, physical, emotional, mental bodies.